did was, you recall, back in the 60s and the 70s, they outlawed God. You said, well, what's the significance of that? Their definition of outlawing God in our school system was not just you can't say there's a God, you can't have values and principles. Because values and principles come from faith. So they abandoned values and principles. So we have spent generations in our educational system saying that there are no values and principles and there is no integrity in life. So because there's no integrity for life, there is no value. And now you have young people that have no value in such life, and so then they just assume take a life as they would look at a glass of water. That's what we're seeing now. Our educational system is a key component of this. And one of the things that is so concerning in this whole defund the police, and you remember defund the police is capitalizing on that mindset. Not only is there no value in life, but look here, there's even less value in life for law enforcement because those are villains, you know, those are racists, those are pigs. We need to eliminate those kind of people. That's what they're saying. And our young people are vulnerable, they're picking up on it. And this is the other thing I tell people if they're not picking up in this consequence. Bad enough for me to keep the officers that I have now, we're losing them like flies, they're dropping like flies. But who's going to pick up the mantle for 5-10 years?
Yes,
who's going to wear the badge?
Yeah.
I can assure you of this, I can't find any young people, and they're all over the country, that come to me and say, man, I've always dreamed about being a cop now. How soon can you get me a badge? I have no interest in.
You know, and recruitment, I mean, is tough. And I saw, and I don't have the city right now, but I saw one department was actually giving signing bonuses. They used to be $5,000 and $6,000. They were offering a signing bonus of $40,000 to become an officer. They are that desperate because there's been such a vilification that has taken place in that regard. And I mean, that aspect's just been off the chart as police departments have been short-handed. And let's see, here it is, Redding, California. Is it?
Yeah, California. Yeah. But it's actually all over the country. New York, Chicago, they're all doing the same thing. Here's another consequence. I know we're talking about so much, but the defund the police didn't think this thing through. To me, it shows you this, they're total idiocracy. But when you treat police that bad, and then you say, oh, I guess I'll make a mistake, you can have your old job back. They're all saying, I don't want it.
Yeah.
Well, let me give you a little bit of a bonus. I don't care how much you get. I'm not coming back. I'm either going to go to a place that respects me and wanted me day one, or I'm going to go drive a garbage. It's not worth my life, my family's life, what you do. That's where we're at today. That's why you see violent crime spike. And I hate to say this on your show, Jim, but we're just at the tip of the iceberg. It's not going to get better. It's going to get a whole lot worse.
I'd like to also just bring up the FBI because there are many that are concerned that the Attorney General Merrick Garland is from the Department of Justice is turning the FBI into a weapon for political opponents. I mean, here we have seen the dispatch, for instance, just recently of multiple FBI agents around the home of a pro-lifer who had charges dismissed against him, but all of a sudden now we have accusations of violating the FACE Act from a year or two ago and apprehending him with multiple agents, and yet that same agency cannot find one perpetrator of all the violence against pro-life pregnancy care centers and pro-family organizations, this wave of terror that has struck against them across this country. Something doesn't add up here.
Well, you're exactly right. It gets worse. I mean, I'm not going to give you inside information. I'm actually fixing to do some media events across the country on this particular issue. People ask me, why are you involved with this issue? INVEST, our purpose is to protect our law enforcement officers. Not just because we have to protect them mentally, emotionally as well. Here's what we mean by that. If we have a two-tier justice system, if there is a perception, it's not a perception, it's a reality. If there's a two-tier system, people no longer trust their law enforcement. That's catastrophic for anybody, right? People don't look whether it's a federal, state, or local badge. They just see a badge. That is why people call out misjustice, miscarriage of justice, even by agencies, when it's appropriate to do so. And in this particular instance, the FBI is definitely way out of line. They're unconstitutional. But some of the other things I was going to share with you is in Buffalo, they have information. We already know of a firebombing that was there. They have the information. They know who did it. They have not filed any charges, and the reason why is they're scared if they file charges, it may cause a repercussion from pro-abortionists, and they don't want to deal with that situation.
Well, and we've interviewed James Harden here on this program, who heads that center, and indicating that they will not even return their own footage back to them so that they can find the perpetrators, and the FBI explained that they're also concerned about right-wing violence coming out as a result of this. I mean, it's preposterous that there's not been one arrest in all of these pregnancy care center firebombs and graffiti and violence and threats against them.
And what is so concerning for us is when you already have the evidence, you know what it is, we're going to decide that we're not going to prosecute because we're scared. Somebody's going to get upset about it. Yeah, that is not how we do justice in this country. That's a two-tier justice system, and it reflects down on every law enforcement agency in the country, and that's why we cannot sit highly by and not let it happen. You know, they just arrested 11 pro-life demonstrators yesterday because of the fact that they said that they were blocking so many abortion clinics years ago. They can find the opportunity to do that, but they can't find the opportunity to prosecute those that they know have put people in harm's way by firebombing.
Yes, we are just a minute from the break here, but I want you to get out your website, and we're going to pick up some discussion on the other side, but get out your website. I know you've got information there how people can come along and assist.
www.investusa.org, and there's a list of things that they can do.
Okay, folks, again, that's investusa.org. You kind of broke up there for a moment. Investusa.org, and that you'll find a lot of information there regarding their mission. We're going to take a quick break. There are just a couple more issues we're going to talk about, and then we'll be opening up phone lines to take your calls as well, ladies and gentlemen. But not only are we seeing this porous border take place as far as people are concerned, but also there is this terror wave that's hitting our nation under the guise of fentanyl. And so we're going to be talking about what is happening with that aspect and the impact that our porous borders are having upon the whole aspect of illegal drugs that are coming across, many times more potent than that of morphine. So let's take a quick break. We'll be back in 60 seconds. We're talking with Michael Letts, founder, president, and CEO of Invest USA. Again, they provide bulletproof vests for their police forces, and you'll find more at their website, investusa.org. It's INVEST USA.org. Back in 1 minute here on Crosstalk.
When it comes to eternity, most people assume they will go to heaven thinking their good deeds will outweigh their bad, and God will allow them entrance. At most funerals, people will console one another saying they are in a better place. But how do you know that? How do you know if you will be in a better place? In the book, Are You Going to a Better Place? Author Richard Schmitz presents how you can know for sure that your sins are forgiven and you are on your way to heaven. See, after you die, there will be no negotiation with God. The scriptures provide the one way today that God's justice can be satisfied, guaranteeing that you will be in an eternal dwelling place with Him. One copy of this book is available for a donation of $10, 3 for $24, or 5 copies for a donation of $30. Call VCY America at 1-800-729-9829.
Troubling times in which we live, ladies and gentlemen. This is not to cause you to despair. Certainly our hope is in the Lord. We understand that, and we need to keep our eyes firmly fixed upon Him, even in these troublesome times. But we do need to have a concern for our nation, the direction that we're going, the policies that are put in place that are taking us down this road, opening the doors for a terror wave here in our country. And Michael, as I've talked about before, there's this, what I call another terror wave hitting our nation. That is the unbelievable amounts of fentanyl that are crossing our border. More than 1 million fentanyl pills just seized from a home in Avondale, Arizona. In Florida, a sheriff's office sees more, enough fentanyl to kill 1.5 million adults. Both of these are just recent stories, but it's staggering to see what's happening here. And if you could just comment on the impact that the Biden administration's policies are having on this wave of the trafficking of fentanyl across our country.
Well, you know that fentanyl has a direct connection to China. And of course, this administration is deeply beholden to China and has great financial ties to China. So they have no interest in timing that coming across our borders. It is destroying this next generation. The worst drug crisis we've ever had in our history.
Right. Well, we know what's going on in recent years with riots, crime, violence in major metropolitan areas. You mentioned Antifa, you mentioned Black Lives Matter. We talked about them today about what's coming across our borders, the gotaways, the violent criminals being released from prisons like in Venezuela to come to the southern border. Are you concerned that there's going to be a convergence of groups like this coming together for even greater disruption than ever before?
Well, there already is. And we know, the cartels, drug cartels are taking full advantage of this. And people have to understand how it all comes together. You always, because, I've also served on council. I've been in politics for 30 years. You understand how money drives politics. So when you begin to look at why do we have the open borders, why do we allow this to happen? Well, those who have plenty of money, and obviously the drug cartel and the human trafficking, they're both two separate entities, but they're tied together, especially when it comes to dealing with our borders, are the biggest industries in the world. And that money oftentimes finds itself filtered into campaign contributions for people who effectuate policy. They always want that money to effectuate a policy that benefits their cause. They are benefited by open borders. That's where they're at. They want to keep it that way. They want to expand it. They don't care about the American public. In fact, their desire is to destroy the American public. But that is why you see such resistance to fixing some of these policy issues, because it is a cash cow. It's used politically by a lot of our operatives in those areas and across the country and even our nation's capital. And that has to be, when we're talking, Jim, about this whole issue that we discussed on your show, not just law enforcement, we have to have judicial reform. I mean, we cannot have prosecutors that are funded by George Soros and others that deliberately want to reduce charges or get people out of jail so we can put them back on the street. We don't need to have judges that automatically suspend time and bring criminals back out into the jail. All this is one major ball of wax that we have to sort through and get reformed if we're going to save the very democracy that we have enjoyed for 250 years.
And let's talk about, what action people can take, because, we hear all of this and sometimes we just want to throw up our arms in despair here. What meaningful things can people do here to change the tide?
There are 6 things that we were asking the American public to do. First of all, number 1, it doesn't cost you a dime. Find a first responder today. Now, come on, today. And tell them thank you for your service, because we have the lowest morale, the highest suicide rate, the highest death rate in history. They know the government doesn't support them. They know the government is not backing them with dollars, equipment, and with moral support. They wonder now if it's working. Think for a moment, if everyone turns in their badge tomorrow, where would this country be? We need to make sure they understand that we, the American people, regardless of our government, we, the American people, support and appreciate. Number 2, if you are in a position and can contribute a few dollars to help put a vest on an officer so they have a fighting chance of coming back safe to their families, please do so. Number 3, and this is an extremely critical element, make sure that you are armed and that you know how to use it. We have got to the point in this country to where you will be called upon to defend yourself, your family, your neighbors, and even possibly help defend our first responders as this issue continues to escalate and get worse. The 4th thing we're asking to do is we're asking Americans, conservatives especially, it's time to take a stand. You can no longer hide on the sidelines. Go to our website. There'll be a button you can click on to go to another website we had to separate the two, and register as, just simply say, I am a conservative and I believe in liberty and freedom. There is strength and unity. That's the whole purpose behind it. If the American government understands that there are tens of millions of people who will no longer stand for this kind of moral decay and corruption that exists in our government and in our country, they will respond. They will not respond to 1 or 2. They respond to masses, and that's what we're asking for people. The 5th thing we're asking them to do is to contribute $1 or 2 to a legal defense fund. Here's what we mean by that. It is not trying to defend myself or somebody else legally. What we're going to do is we're going to take those dollars and begin to initiate legal action against agencies that have been weaponized and politicized and are doing unconstitutional actions. we're going to fight fire with fire. And we feel like we can do that. We have to do that. And the sixth thing that we're going to do is, folks, there's an election in about 4 weeks. This is the most critical election we've had probably in our history. Make sure that you're registered to vote, that you do vote, and that you make sure that you encourage others to do so. And it's time to take our country back.
Well, friends, that's quite a list there. Number 6 there, and that election coming up. We'll have a comment on that in just a moment. But let's open some phone lines today to get your questions, your brief comments today on the program. 800-733-9829. 1-800-733-9829. Michael, that's our guest here today. Again, their website, investusa.org. And, you know, this election, we are seeing, for instance, I just looked at our home state of Wisconsin. One of the key races that is being watched around the country is U.S. Senator Ron Johnson. And he is being challenged by Mandela Barnes, the current lieutenant governor here in the state of Wisconsin. Mandela very much involved in doing away with cash bail, very much involved in release of opening up our prison doors and releasing individuals. And he's been hammered on that. And guess what? The poll numbers are shifting that are elevating Ron Johnson at this point. And so, I mean, today's headline is now how Mandela Barnes is wanting to change the narrative. Let's talk about abortion instead. Same thing happening with Governor Tony Evers and Mr. Michaels, who's running in opposition to him. And this is happening, replicated in states all across this nation and races across this country as it relates to those who are trying to perpetuate this mayhem versus those who are wanting to